What is up, everyone? So we're having a little bit of change of pace today. We're out hiking at a semi-local hiking trail. It's about 20 minutes or so from my new house. I have been out here a lot, but I can't remember if I've made any videos out here or not, so I figured I'd bring you guys along. The trail is called Pine Log Creek hiking trails. It's I believe it's Gordon County, but it's kind of right on the line of Gordon and Bartow County. It's in a little valley called East Valley. The trails, it goes down to an old rock quarry. There's a whole history about these woods, and I had looked them up at one point. Can't remember right off completely, but essentially was an old just a real small community that was out here in like the 40s. And kind of the same story with a lot of these southern towns. A lot of the men went off to war rather, and kind of left the women here. Town kind of fell, and then at some point it became a rock quarry, which you'll see later on. There's a lake down there now, and then probably, I guess, 8 to 10 years ago, somewhere in that area, they adopted it into a county park and then made hiking trails out here. I believe that's the history. I could be getting it mixed up with some other places and some other history of places that I've been to, but just for quick reference, that's I think essentially what's happened out here. As you've seen, I have Lagertha with me today. Some of my prior videos, hiking videos, she hasn't been around, which some people might have found odd. If you follow the channel, you know that I've always had her with me in most of all my hiking videos since I got her. She's 2 years old now, so she's hiked a lot with me. But at some point during the summer, we had an accident where we were walking every day like we always have, and I believe what happened was she had a heat stroke, and I've been super nervous about bringing her on any kind of hikes, especially with the weather being warmer. Now that the weather's cooled down a lot, I'm gonna start reintroducing her on shorter hikes. And oh yeah, we just crossed over Pine Log Creek, but I'm gonna start introducing her to shorter hikes again, to hopefully build her back up to being able to go on the longer hikes with me on my overnighters. So as you see, I have the big pack with me today. It's not loaded down. I've probably got 12-15 pounds maybe at the most. Just the basic gear. I've got a first aid kit, Wooby, purifier, a cooker, couple meals. Not really necessary for this trail, but since I'm gonna be reintroducing her, I figured I would also train myself and start carrying the packs again. So that's what we're doing. Now this trail, as you can see, is pretty maintained. They have things labeled pretty well. I just noticed back at the bridge that they've put out some new benches, so that's good. It's been a while since I've been out here. Come on, girl. I was coming out and trail running a lot out here. This particular route that we're going to take will bring us down to the rock quarry at the lake, and I think it's either 2 miles to the lake and then 2 miles back, or either 4 miles there and 4 miles back. But I want to say it's like a 5-mile round trip. So 2.5 miles there, 2.5 miles back. Real easy walking. I think the hardest part of the day probably will be crossing the creek that we crossed back there, which I did not record. There was a fella in the parking lot with a dog that was going nuts, so I was just trying to get Lagertha away from there. I will be working with her some today on sitting and staying, maybe a little bit off-leash trail work. It's been a while since we've worked on it. Usually at least every day at the house, I'll hit her with a sit or a stay, and she does well. But not being out in the environment that I've trained her for, like anything else, she'll lose the training. So I'm gonna hit her with some of that today, see how she does. Come on, girl. And then I'm just gonna bring you guys along for the trip, and hopefully you enjoy it. Stay tuned. So we're coming down to this first little intersection right here. I think this is gonna mark the end of what they're calling the approach trail. And so you can take the trail this way, that I believe is called the West Loop, and then this way, East Loop. We're gonna go to the East Loop. It looks like East Loop is 1.5 miles. Let's see. Yeah, so 1.5 miles. They've got this nice little trail system, and it actually says Bartow County, so I was wrong about being Gordon County. But I do think that, as I mentioned, it's right on the border of Gordon and Bartow. So this way, girl. Can't really tell it by this, but we had probably 2 inches of rain overnight, and as I mentioned, the trail crossing at the very beginning to get into the parking lot crosses Pine Log Creek, or a tributary to Pine Log Creek. I'll show it to you when we get back, but usually there's big rocks that they've got as stepping stones. We're completely underwater, so we had to go across a tree. Not a big deal. Lagertha did it, no problem. But that little tributary didn't even let go as much water in it at all. Pretty cool little overlook. Unfortunately, I see trash everywhere. Now, the last time I came out here, probably, I don't know, it was probably a year ago or better. Down in the valley down there, there was a tent set up that looked like it had been there for quite a while. Now, I know back over on the other side of those hills over there, there are some houses, so never did figure out if it was just somebody's kids out playing and just left the tent. Come on, girl. Or if there was like somebody living out of it. I don't see the tent anymore. Maybe from up here we can look down again from a different vantage point and see. There's passing a loop here. It says we've made it a quarter mile, so 0.25 of a mile. And I told you wrong a minute ago. At the intersection, it said we were on the East Loop. We're actually on the West Loop. Yeah, I don't see the tent anymore at all. So maybe somebody finally came in and Cleaned it out. Oh, get off trail a little. We have reached a point that I like to call the halfway point, but according to the mileages, it's definitely not the halfway point, but it feels like it anyways. Water is extremely up today from the rain, so but normally you could come here and there would be folks here with dogs and they were letting them swim. It's usually deep right here anyways, but they would bring them and let them jump off and chase the balls and stuff. I think Lagertha's wanting some water. If she goes off right there, she'll sink up. So there's a tributary over here that feeds in, we'll go to. So these benches looks like were put here by an Eagle Scout project. So Jonathan Black, Troop 24, shout out to you, buddy. Benches are awesome, did a good job with it. Come on, girl, let's go get some water. Now today is what I would consider a beautiful late fall day here in North Georgia, even though it is November 30th, the last day of November here. And I say late fall because here in North Georgia, at this point, you know, we've had a handful of days, probably 10 or so, that has gotten down in below freezing. We've had a couple nights that were down in the 20s, had a couple nights that were down in the mid 30s. I think we've had like 1 or maybe 2 days that hung out in the low 40s, like for the high during the day. So today, for instance, it's like 51 degrees now. The wind is blowing and it does get pretty chilly when you're not down in the valley or when you're in the open with the wind blowing. I just noticed some buildings sitting right over there on the side of the river that I've never noticed before. Yeah, so this is, like I was saying, this is like a late fall day. Honestly, I'm ready for some colder weather to roll in. This is my favorite time of the year to hike, with all the foliage and stuff being off. You can see a lot more. You can see way through the woods. It was cloudy this morning. As you can see, the clouds have rolled out and it is now sunny, which is good. Come on, girl. So yeah, we're just gonna enjoy the rest of the hike here on down to the quarry, and I will catch up with you guys in a little while. So we're coming up to another trail intersection here. I just passed a marker probably about 40 yards ago that said 0.75 miles out of a mile and a half to the quarry, so we've still got roughly half a mile to go to make it to the quarry. So not too far. I know we got to go across the bridge there and then up and around that knob, and the quarry's behind that knob. Now this, I'm trying to remember, let's see. Okay, so I see what happened there. We were actually on the west loop. Come here, Lags. Let's see if I can show you guys what was going on. Okay, so we came in here by the Bigfoot at the parking area. We hiked the approach trail down to that first intersection. We hiked the west loop around to where we are now. We got like a little trail here that's going to connect a connector trail that's going to connect the two, and then we're going to hike the east loop around to the quarry. And when we leave the quarry, we may go ahead and hike the other side of that east loop back to the connector trail and then head back on the west loop the way we came in. To probably give us roughly 6 miles by the time we get finished. And by the way, this trail is rated as moderate, which you're gonna see here. So I don't think it's rated as moderate, but for some people it may be, so keep that in mind if you decide you want to come out and attempt to hike down to the quarry. And that over there where the towers are is Pine Log Mountain, and that is a mountain, Pine Log, and the one right next to it, Bear Mountain. And I think there may even be another one there called Hanging Mountain or something like that. Are both mountains that, or all three are mountains that I've been trying to summit for quite some time. And because of the approach, which is a little over 10 miles, it makes it difficult to do it in a day trip. So I'm just gonna have to get my stuff together and just full send it one day and do it and summit all three in one day, because I really want to get that knocked out. Kind of coming into the quarry now. You can see all these blasted rocks all along the banks here. There's actually water flowing down there right now. There has been some times when I've come here during the summer where it's just completely bone dry. But again, we got 2 inches of rain last night, so it's not really surprising that the water's flowing pretty well today. We really needed that rain. We haven't got that much rain at one time in probably 4 or 5 months. You go get some water. Where are you going? Going up. Okay. We're about to be up here at the lake in a minute, and you can get some fresh water. But yeah, it's flowing really well today. Nice little flow going on. And here's the intersection for the lake and the other side of East Loop. We're gonna come over here to the lake. So here's the first looks at the quarry, what used to be the quarry. Now it's a nice little lake here, and I don't know if you can see it in the water. You might be able to, but there are fish in here. There's some big bass. I've actually brought my fishing pole down here before, fished off those rocks right over there. The water looks up right now, but you can go around the outskirts over there I don't know what I'm doing with my camera here. Let's see. You can go around the outskirts over there and climb up. I've been up on the top of that rock with my kiddos. I've been all the way up there. I have climbed a decent portion of that hill over there. When me and the kids first got into rock climbing, I was looking for something easy for them to do, and so down here on that far side over there is I thought at the time decent climbing. Turns out it was not, but it was kind of cool for the kids. They climbed a route, and they decided to name it themselves and stuff, so that was kind of cool. Let's see if we can see any fish in the water right now while it's sunny from up here. I'm not really seeing a whole lot right now. So we left the pack over at the table and we walked on around the lake. There's a little trail, kind of got to up climb here, but so this is the rocks that I was telling you that I set up and let my kids climb. I climbed up either there or there, traversed all the way around, and then that big pine tree up at the top, I set up an anchor off of that tree for top rope, and let both of my kids climb this section right here. Very sharp rock. They did it, both of them topped all the way out on their first ascent, and I don't really think anybody else has ever climbed that, so for something fun, I told them that like on a mountain project, when you go in and look at different climbing routes, if it's never been climbed before, they allow you to name the route. So kids named this route. I don't even remember what they named it now. I don't even know if they would remember it. It's been a while back, a couple years, probably 3 years at this point. But either way, I set up a retrievable rappel. When they got done climbing, I just pulled the rope down, and then we just came out and made a day of it. Now the trail does go on around that way, on around over to the big boulders, but I'm not going to go over there today with the dog. Yeah, pretty cool little area right here. All right, so earlier at the very beginning of the hike, I mentioned some information and history about the valley here, and we've just been sitting here resting. I let Lagertha rest for a little bit, and while she was resting, I was doing some more research on the history out here, and so I was sort of right, but mostly wrong. So I want to go ahead and correct that. So there was a town here. Doesn't talk a whole lot about it other than it was an old Cherokee town. Nothing in it. It didn't say anything about men going off to war or anything like that. So I'm not really sure where I got that information from. Maybe that was me thinking of another area and getting the two mixed up. However, I'll read off what it does say. It says, Pine Log, let's see, the town's Pine Log Creek is steeped in history, the former location of a Cherokee town that spanned 1 mile along the creek's flat banks. The town's history spans centuries. Spanish explorer De Soto visited the village in 1570. Chief Yellowbird signed the Treaty of Hopewell here in 1785. And centuries later, many famous Cherokee chieftains, including Ridge, Van, and Hicks, were born in the thriving village. And so that tidbit of history is found on a geocaching page that I just happened to run across on Google. The quarry is a CCC quarry, so wildlife management, CCC deal, corpse. I don't know exactly. I can't find a definitive history on it. I'm gonna have to do some more digging and looking into it, but if you look on this side of the lake where we walked in at, so we walked in here. This is the intro. You can see where people have walked up through here and stuff before. This, I think, if you follow this, I think it's pretty much an old clear-cut road that will bring you back out somewhere close to the road, which would be Highway 140 between, let's see, between Fairmount and, what is that town? I can't think of it right off right now, but 140 is a pretty traveled highway. The trailhead actually is off of Highway 140, but it's further down than where this road would bring you out at. So I'm gonna assume that the history of the Cherokee Village was somewhere between the quarry and East Valley, which is a couple miles as the crow flies that way. Is the only thing I can figure out. There's not really a whole lot of like definitive signs that there was a village there, which, I mean, it's been hundreds of years, so I can understand why there wouldn't be, but pretty interesting information for, you know, such a simple place to get to. Okay, so unfortunately it looks like that geocache is gone. However, there is another one right here very nearby that says this point 2 miles away. So we're gonna go try to find it. It was, the activity for it was posted on November 21st, so like 9 days ago. So I would think it would still be there. All right, let's go. Apparently, after fumbling through the woods within plus or minus 15 feet of where the second geocache was supposed to be, not being able to find it, asked for a hint, and the hint said, "I am kidding." I guess I should have known what the description of the geocache was. It was a soccer field in the middle of the woods. So I guess that's a thing you have to look out for. I don't know, I've never really been into the geocache thing, so I'm guessing that you have to look on there and see if they're real or not. Otherwise, you're on a wild goose chase. Come on, girl. Come on, go over the tree. Go on. Go. Go on. Good girl. Good girl, pup. Good girl, Lags. Alright guys, so we've just about made it back to the trailhead right here. Not very much further at all. And the next obstacle is going to be getting over this water crossing. This is the crossing that I told you guys about early on. And funny enough, just in the amount of time that we walked down to the lake and back, the rocks are now not submerged anymore. And so earlier when I came through here, all this was underwater, and I had to go across that tree over there, which wasn't a huge deal, but that's kind of crazy how fast the water went down. Huh. Kind of cool at the same time. Nope. Go in the back. Come on. Over here. Go on. Jump. Good girl. Let me see. Get the leash off. Alright guys, so that was Pine Log Creek Trail. Just the approach, a portion of the west loop, the connector, and then a portion of the east loop, and we did 4.97 miles. So right at 5 miles basically to go there and back. So not a bad day hike. And I will give this trail a rating of like an 8 or 9 out of 10. The trail is very accessible. It's well maintained. It is secluded. Almost every time I've come here, I've seen very few people. They've now got a picnic table at the lake, so that's another big plus. You can come and you can have a picnic. You know, you can fish. I've hung a hammock down there before. It's good trail running, and like I mentioned, I've been here many times and I will come back many more times. And to me, you know, when you go to a trail and you go back several times, that's a good indication that that's a good trail system. So like I said guys, 8 or 9 out of 10. I highly recommend it if you want to come check it out. Just look up Pine Log Creek Trail System in Bartow County. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I inspired some of you guys to get out, enjoy nature a little bit, put your devices down, let the river and the forest heal you up. And I appreciate all the likes, the views, any new subscribers. I appreciate you for coming on board, and I will catch you guys on the next one.